start where they are, but don't stay there. If you've taken even one class with me, you've heard me say this. My advisor in graduate school shared that quote during a conversation about teaching, and since then, it's become my personal motto. The ideas of beginnings and futures are especially relevant today as we celebrate the accomplishments of the class of 2017 and envision what is yet to come. Moments like these are meant to be remembered, stored deeply in your heart for all eternity. So it seems fitting that I share with you how you've collectively made an imprint on my heart. Like any good education professor, I'm inspired by the work of Paulo Freire, whose educational philosophy I borrow to describe what I hope you all have experienced during these last 4 years and what I challenge you to pursue in years to come. Freire dedicated his professional life to campaigning for the dismantling of mass education. That is to say, he reimagined education not as a means to a career, but a means to emancipation. Because to him, education was the practice of freedom. The path to liberation, according to Freire, was through critical pedagogy, critical praxis, and critical hope. When we hear the word pedagogy, we often think about teachers and students. But in a Freirean model, the students are the teachers. A critical education is not about specific teaching methods. It is a philosophical approach that reorients the roles of the teacher and the student and their relationship to one another and society. The intention, therefore, is to deconstruct schooling both literally and figuratively, and to reconstruct it as a place where culture and knowledge are created, not replicated. In the simplest form, critical pedagogy embraces dialogue as an encounter between students and their diverse ways of knowing and being. I came to Colorado College 6 years ago, fresh from my graduate school days at Vanderbilt University. I often tell the embarrassing story that before my interview, I would have been hard-pressed to find Colorado on a map. Being from Washington, D.C., and growing up in North Carolina meant that Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, and other such states were just places I knew existed, but really had no interest in visiting, nonetheless living. If you'd asked me back then if I'd be living in Colorado Springs or teaching in an education department, or perhaps most shockingly, if I'd be building a mountain home on 35 acres in rural Colorado, I'd have responded with a resounding no. But I am. Because CC has changed me. You students have changed me. I entered my first class sure of myself and certain that I could and would teach you all the history of educational discourse and its implications for contemporary schooling. I sat in that first circle and marveled at the sound of my own voice, dropping knowledge that I was certain would convince each of you to be an education major. Unwittingly, I'd constructed an image of myself and of you all in which I was the knowledge broker, and as James Banks says, you were accounts into which I should make deposits. I could not have been more wrong about our relationship. In my 6 years here, I've sat in dozens of such circles with hundreds of students from whom I learned about things I never knew existed. I learned the latest slang, so I ensured my courses were lit and we would kiki it up in class. From others of you, I learned the difference between backcountry and front country and how to make a protein-rich snack to eat after that hike y'all knew I'd never take. More substantively, in a reflection of my own pedagogical endeavors, you taught me about environmental sustainability and how to think more critically about my footprint in the world. Through every conversation, during every field trip, after every laughing session, you all taught me a new way of being me. This kind of critical pedagogy, in which the processes and outcomes of learning are shaped by the students, has enabled me to honor where I was, but not stay there. And for that, I am forever in your debt. The only way I can think to repay this favor is to facilitate your own development, in which you acknowledge where you were, where you are, and where you intend to go. This is the crux of critical praxis, self-directed reflection and action. As a liberal arts school, we've done a pretty good job of helping you develop the skills for reflective action. But now I challenge you to engage in reflexive praxis. The distinction between the two is far more than a C turned X. When we speak of reflection and action, we are talking about the retrospective and how it shaped the contemporary moment and defined opportunities for intervention. But when we speak of reflexive praxis, we are talking about how who you are now has the potential to shape future opportunities for others. You've rightfully spent the last 4 years nurturing yourselves, but now it is time for you to leverage this experience to effect broader change. Critical praxis operates as a reflective tool with which you can interrogate your lived experiences in relation to structures of power and dominance. From that knowledge point, we can engage in collective action to ensure that, as Frantz Fanon says, the wretched of the earth transform from being for others to being for themselves. 4 years ago, I'm not sure you all will have understood what it is I'm asking you to do. I am not sure that as graduating high school seniors, you'd have had the lived experiences to understand the complexities of the world in which we exist. It has been our goal as your faculty and your mentors to provide you with the opportunity to experience the world and to instill in you the desire to change it. I believe we've been successful given your deep engagement with social issues over the past 4 years. Despite the CC bubble, you all realize the power of social media throughout your time here. From your first year with the emergence of #BlackLivesMatter, through a campus-wide forum about the misuse of online discussion threads, and most recently throughout a news-driven, contentious presidential election, you all were tuned in and vocal. You walked out of class, staged sit-ins, protested movie screenings, and challenged one another to think more deeply about equity, privilege, and social justice. I am proud of your consistent engagement with issues those far older than you have problems engaging. I am proud of your willingness to listen to ideas that may run contrary to your own in an effort to create community. I am proud of your unrelenting demands for an inclusive curriculum, a diverse faculty, and equitable learning opportunities. But mostly, I am proud of you for transforming an education for information into an education for liberation. So now I ask you, how can you use these past 4 years to liberate others? How can you meet them where they are and ensure they not stay there? It sounds like a daunting task, perhaps best suited for those of us with more experience, more education, or frankly, more power. But I've never believed that change trickles down. Like Freire, I believe that the greatest humanistic and historical task of youth is to liberate themselves. Indeed, if history teaches us anything, revolution takes, as Common says in the award-winning song Glory, the wisdom of the elders and young people's energy. In this energy resides a type of bravery underscored by a sense of hope that enables young people to stand up for others despite the personal risks. Critical hope. That's what Freire called it. Critical in that it is not naive nor omniscient. It is not blind faith or magic wands, but thoughtful analysis of causes and effects, of befores and afters. Hopeful in that it operates as a vortex that simultaneously pushes and pulls us forward to ensure we move from where we were to where we want to be. Combined, these words precede the action that is necessary to affect and effect change. For without critical engagement and hopeful optimism, we are like your rats in intro psych, who work only to receive a reward. Rote memorization and uninterrogated information are antithetical to liberal arts values. We are not concerned so much with what you know, but more so how you know it to be true. As such, when reflecting on your college experience, I urge you to move beyond listing courses and associated grades, and to instead remember the people you met who challenged what you believed and made you question why you believed it. Because as Freire said, to be human is to engage in relationships with others and consequently with the world. For those who chose CC because of its familiarity, I urge you to now choose an unfamiliar place. Push yourself into a state of discomfort so that you can construct your own sense of community when you feel alone. For those who came to CC as I did, uncertain if it was the place for you, I encourage you to stand strong in the certainty that you made it work. But perhaps now you should allow yourself to exist in a space where you can thrive, not just survive. Whether you had the best 4 years of your life here or you struggled to feel at home, embrace this experience as one that took you from where you were and ensured you did not stay there. Like society, you are in transition. We've done our best to create a positive and safe college experience for you, but we could not and would not protect you from the realities of life beyond the bubble. Instead, we supported your big ideas as you examine the world through venture grants, internships, community service, and study abroad. It is these experiences, more so than what you did in any class, that we hope engendered a sense of civic engagement and social responsibility. Because hope cannot be acquired intellectually, but only through experience. It is now up to you to create the experiences that will continue to push you beyond your limitations. There will be no syllabi or required readings to determine the content of your life. There will be no reading days or block breaks for pre-scheduled relaxation. You are now the instructor of your course. As much as I want to, I can't tell you who or how to be. I can only trust that we've done a good enough job, that we've helped shape a class of students who are not afraid to confront, to listen, and to see the world unveiled. I again borrow from Freire to caution you against seeing yourself as the proprietor of history or of all people. Your Colorado College degree does not designate you the liberator of the oppressed, but rather as an accomplice willing to fight at their side. As Toni Morrison told her students, quote, "When you get these jobs that you have been so brilliantly trained for, just remember that your real job is that if you are free, you need to free somebody else. If you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else," end quote. Your education has been a practice of freedom, but now you must engage in liberatory praxis. I have extreme faith that each of you can do this, as we've cultivated your ability to perceive critically the way you exist in the world, a world that never is, but is always in the process of becoming. We've helped you unlearn that which presumes to tell you what to know and how to know it. We've redefined traditional notions of schooling so that you will always remember that to learn is to recreate the way you see yourself in society. To know is to acknowledge your incompleteness and to use the skills you've acquired to become fully formed. To be literate is to read the world and to write yourself into it. Class of 2017, my advice to you is to remember where you've been, but to start writing from where you are. I look forward to reading your script for the world. Congratulations.